it. The amendment's not agreed to. Ms. Leger Fernández.
Madam Chair, I have an amendment to the move. I move the committee make an order amendment number 25 to the Senate amendment to H.R. 5371 offered by myself, which strikes Section 213 of Division C, which allows senators who were legally subpoenaed during the January 6th criminal conspiracy investigation to get millions of dollars deposited into their bank accounts at taxpayer expense. Now, we have offered various amendments tonight because we want to make sure we go on the record to determine where do we Republicans stand. Do they stand with Argentina, with the $40 billion we're sending down there, or with American taxpayers and their needs for health care and those tax credits? Do they stand with the babies who need the WIC funding? Do they stand in favor of farmers and veterans and children and families who require that nutrition funding? This amendment is slightly different because you agree with us on this policy position. We have heard several of you speak to the fact that you think that this Senate provision is wrong. We have called it corruption. We do not think it is proper that American taxpayers should be sending millions of dollars into individual senators' bank accounts. And those 8 senators that we named earlier are not the only senators which may receive these funds. That is the minimum. This money can continue to flow. We have heard you say that you don't have the power to do anything about this because you want to fund the government, because you want to keep it open. If you would have been here earlier, you would have heard the panels discuss the fact that this could be fast-tracked. We could get this done. But it only gets done if the House exercises its power. And your power is your vote. Your constituents sent you here to vote, not to make a speech, not to say I think it's wrong, and to tweet something and then vote the opposite. The only way this gets changed is if you vote to change it. And so that's why we are bringing this amendment to eliminate this. I also want to make sure that we thank Congressman Raskin and Subramaniam, who have similar amendments and provided excellent testimony tonight about this. So let's see what kind of courage we all have to stand up to this kind of corruption and special treatment for senators, for 100 people who will be treated completely different than every other American who may have their records legally subpoenaed by the Department of Justice. With that, Madam Chair, I move my amendments, and I encourage all of us to think carefully about your vote.
Madam Chair?
Is there further discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, I would just simply say to my colleagues, do the right thing. Because if you don't stop this now, you're never going to stop it. I mean, I don't. This will be a done deal. You will not find a vehicle to be able to get at this. And if we pass this amendment, make this amendment in order tonight, John Thune get on the telephone and get his senators back there tomorrow night. You could fix this, and the government could be open. But don't use the excuse that, oh, this is going to slow down the opening of the government, or that, well, we can't do, our hands are tied. I mean, you either want to fix this problem or you don't. But understand this, if we don't fix it now, you're never going to fix it. It's a done deal, and it's not just the senators who allow this to happen that are responsible. It will be you as well. I yield back.
Mr. Griffith seeks recognition.
Madam Chair, quote, "The government needs to open and it needs to open immediately," end quote. Abigail Spanberger, governor-elect, said that on Sunday. As I said earlier, the problem with all of these amendments is that it stops the government from being able to open. We're trying to get the government reopened, hopefully tomorrow. And I heard the debate earlier about you can fast track it, you can go, there's two ways to do it. You can do it on unanimous consent, or you can have a roll call. I heard the gentleman say that. The problem is that a majority of the Democrats in the Senate have opposed this all the way. All it takes is one to say, I want a roll call, any one of the roughly, I guess it's 40, of the senators who voted no can demand a roll call, and we lose another week. As I also said before, my district, one of the most economically stressed districts in the nation, has suffered enough. We heard our colleagues say that there needed to be some suffering to get what they wanted. My district has suffered enough. It suffers economically on a fairly regular basis. And in this 40 plus, now 42 days I think we're at, it has suffered. The suffering needs to end, and we can end it. But to do so, because of the way the process works here, we have to send it back to the Senate if we agree to any of these amendments. And I disagree with my colleague on the other side who said, and he may be right, but I disagree that there's only one chance to do it, and it's now. No, there's going to be other chances that we can strike back at the Senate before the senators actually start filing their claims. And I suspect, after all the attention that's been brought on this, any senator that plans to run for re-election is not going to make a claim. So I think that this is going to resolve itself, but if not, I'm prepared to vote later, but I'm not prepared to keep the government shut an additional day. And I said earlier we want to vote on Wednesday. It is Wednesday. With all of the discussion that we've had, we're now into Wednesday. So we want to get the government open today, later today. That's our goal. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what my people sent me here to do. That's what the governor-elect of Virginia has asked us to do. And I am going to do it by voting no, even though the intent of the amendment is justified. I yield back.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Madam
Ms.
Chair.
Scanlon.
I would first yield briefly to Mr.
Yeah,
McGovern.
and I'll tell you, people watching this, if people are still up, are rolling their eyes. Because when you want to, this institution can move at the speed of light. To pass tax cuts for multimillionaires and billionaires, corporate bailouts, I mean, it would do it in a nanosecond. But when it comes to this, corruption, oh, no, we can't, oh, no, we can't compel the Senate to come back. You know, I mean, you tried to jam the Senate by sending over your flawed continuing resolution. Now they jammed you back. And you're just going to accept it. And the bottom line is accepting this means that the people who do not vote for this amendment are complicit in this. And I'm going to tell you, if you believe that this will be fixed, I mean, you know, I don't know. I've been around here a while. You know, I see how this place works. Once this is done, it is done. The Senate will never revisit this, and we'll be powerless to do anything about it. So, but it's just frustrating as hell that when people want to move quickly here, they do. But when people just want to talk about things, you know, and not see any changes, we see how this plays out. It really is frustrating. I understand why people are frustrated with this institution. I yield back to my colleague. Yeah.
Gentleman yields
Thank you.
back.
No, he yielded back to me.
Ms. Scanlon yields
Thank-
back.
No, not yet, I didn't.
I'm sorry, you
No,
have,
he was just yielding back to me. Appreciate it.
would you like to speak, Ms. Scanlon?
Yes,
You're recognized.
please. Thank you. What I find, well, among many things that is so troubling about this is all year we have seen Congress rolling over and letting the White House trample on the Constitution, trample on laws, and now we're seeing the House prepared to roll over and let the Senate trample on things. It's not the way our constitutional order is supposed to work. It's not how legislation is supposed to work. I'm very unsympathetic to the idea that it's too late, that the government's been shut down too long. Well, you could have come back a little earlier and we could have hashed this out earlier. But so don't tell us that, it's too late to do anything. And finally, the idea that senators would be too shamed to take advantage of their multi-million-dollar payout, in case you haven't recognized, shame appears to be dead in DC. So I don't think your arguments are persuasive, and I urge a yes vote on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion? Ms. Houchin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So let's just be very clear. Republicans in the House voted to fund the government 50 days ago. Democrats in the House voted to close the government. Republicans in the Senate voted 14 times to fund the government. Democrats in the Senate voted 14 times to keep it closed. All of the suffering that the American people have been enduring, discussed here tonight, fall only on one party, the Democrats. Democrats thought this political stunt would give them leverage. They used the American people as leverage, and for what? Really, so big insurance companies can continue collecting big payouts. Let's discuss WIC. We had an amendment on WIC. President Trump made sure that this program was fully funded despite the Democrats turning off the funding for it. Democrats have lamented for hours about all the people hurting from the shutdown that they caused. We've listened to Democrats talk about how health care is too expensive due to a system they broke. Now they want the American people to believe they're gaslighting and hand even more money to big government and big insurance. But more money is not going to fix a broken program. Think about this. They shut down the government to fight for enhanced premium subsidies. Guess who gets those? Insurance companies. They shut down the government so insurance CEOs can benefit from record profits. Now, on to the amendment offered by Ms. Leger Fernández. Many of us agree that no agency of government should ever be used to intimidate or target members of Congress or the Senate. But we also know that the harms inflicted on this institution and on President Trump by the Biden Department of Justice are so egregious, they border on treason. The American people deserve confidence in the DOJ that it's not weaponized against anyone, especially elected officials who have a constitutional duty to hold government accountable. Now, I cannot answer today what the appropriate remedy is, but I do believe that every citizen has a right to petition their government and seek a redress of grievances. Here's where we differ tonight. Today, the American people have suffered long enough under a Democrat-led shutdown, and I'm not willing to keep the government closed while these issues are debated and decided in the House. I will vote against the amendment and for the rule, because people have suffered long enough under the Schumer shutdown. I'm happy to discuss a standalone bipartisan bill to address this issue moving forward, but I won't make this change today and continue to stall the process. It's time to reopen the government and end the shutdown. I yield back.
Favors this legislation?
Madam,
Mr. Neguse, you're recognized.
thank you, Madam Chair. I actually did not intend to speak on this amendment, but to my colleague from
Follow your intentions.
what was that?
You should follow your intentions.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, Madam Chair, but I could not resist the temptation to respond to some of the comments from my colleagues on the side of the aisle, and in particular, my colleague from Indiana, who has joined us now. It's 1 a.m. here, I believe, to her first remarks of the hearing today after 7 hours, 8 hours of testimony from our colleagues and from the appropriations leaders and all the rest. But nonetheless, wonderful to welcome her to this committee. With respect to this amendment, again, it is folly to think that once this is signed into law by President Trump, that it will ever change. Why do you think these senators packaged this provision into the CR in the first instance? It's because they knew that you would make the exact arguments you're making now. Well, of course, I perhaps this provision is problematic, but I can't possibly vote in favor of this amendment now and put at risk all of the various rationales that all of my colleagues have offered. It's ridiculous. If you oppose this provision, which I believe, as I said, is a corrupt provision, and I suspect that there are some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle who agree with me. I'm not, actually, some is very charitable. There are two colleagues of mine, three, I think, on the other side of the aisle, Mr. Roy, Mr. Scott, and the gentleman from Virginia, who I think agree that this provision is deeply problematic and should not become law. I don't, with respect to the sentiments of the rest of my colleagues, I guess I just would take this at face value, because in my view, it is very clear to me that at least with respect to those three individuals, you've expressed your reservations. And I would simply encourage you, at least one or two of my colleagues, whom I mentioned, vote in favor of this amendment so that we can at least send a signal to the Senate that what they did in this instance is unacceptable. If you do not, if the amendment fails, if it can't garner a single Republican vote, again, I think this Senate will see this for what it is, which is complicity that, at the end of the day, sure, House Republicans may make a lot of noise, but fundamentally, we can roll them whenever we'd like. We've done it multiple times this year. We will continue to do it for the remainder of the 119th Congress. And I sincerely believe that Mr. Scott and Mr. Roy, I believe that you agree with me that this provision is wrong. I honestly do. So I'm just asking you, vote in favor of the amendment, send a signal to those senators that this was unacceptable. I yield back. Or I yield to the gentlewoman from New Mexico.
If you would, I mean, you have done that before. We have seen, not frequently, very infrequently, but where you have exercised that kind of independence and voted your conscience on some of these issues. And we appreciate that because we know that's not easy to do. So I do encourage you to consider the signal you are sending to the Senate, the signal you are sending to Americans when you can't even vote for an amendment to strip this provision. And with that, I yield back to my.
Thank you, Mr. Neguse. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Roy?
I'll only add just a couple of thoughts to what the gentlelady from Indiana said. The bill before us, as the gentleman from Virginia articulated, is a bill that will open the government probably in about 24 hours, if all goes to the current schedule tomorrow, voting.
Or less.
passes. Or, yeah, give or take. And that's the whole point. That's what we're doing. That's what the last 54 days, quoting my friend from Indiana, that the American people have been watching. And the messages we get and people asking what's going to happen, the folks at TSA that we've all met with, people, the air traffic controllers we've all met with, all the things we've all been doing. For whatever theater this is all about, which 99.9% of Americans aren't going to give a rip about or watch. And that's all this is political theater in this room here right now. It's just back and forth trying to joust on political points, Democrat, Republican. That's it. That's all that's happening. The fact is you have an egregious violation, an abuse of power by the FBI, the Department of Justice, that was carried out against United States senators. Just an egregious abuse of power in coordination with a federal judge that comes in and says that AT&T can't provide the records to a sitting United States senator. At least one of the providers had the courage to at least go into court and say, wait a minute, speech and debate clause, maybe we can't do this. At least one of them did that. But the extent to which 20% of the Republican members of the Senate were targeted by the FBI is extraordinary. And we haven't talked about that at all. We're going to talk about the corruption, Let's talk about that corruption. The power of the government, the executive branch, being targeted to Article 1 in that way. That merits full hearings, full discussion. It should offend us all. But fine, we'll get there. But we're sitting here in the Rules Committee, and we're talking about this now, having this information now at our disposal.
We're talking about a slush fund. That's what we're talking about.
And we're talking about the root cause of what we're talking
So
about.
you either favor the slush fund or
We're
you
talking
don't.
about, it's my time. And what we're talking about is how we got here. The abuse of power by the FBI and a federal judge. That's the truth. No. I don't like the provision, but this is my time.
Come on, come on.
The fact of the matter
Mr.
is,
Neguse.
the fact of the matter is, that's the corruption that should be alarming to any member of Congress. The dismissal by my colleagues on the other side of the aisle tells you everything you need to know. It tells you everything you need to know. A complete lack of regard for what the executive branch did to target members of the United States Senate and members of Congress and our colleagues. When my friend Scott Perry was on family vacation and has the FBI rolling into his house in front of his kids to confiscate his phone. Like, we don't seem to care about that. We don't seem to care about that abuse of power. This is my time. But this is what my colleagues don't seem to care about. And what we're here now talking about is an amendment that, yes, I expressed early and share and continue to share the concern. Well, you can say whatever you want. The fact of the matter, like, logic and reason should matter here. And what my point before that you scoffed at, Mr. Ranking Member, earlier, when I said this is political theater, that's precisely what it is. Because if you're being at all objective about this, you would be equally concerned about the corruption of what we saw out of the Department of Justice and the FBI, as you are concerned about a provision that I don't believe should have been put in the bill. But no, we're not going to reject the funding of the government today, because that provision was inserted in the bill. But I joined my friend in Indiana, and I would join my friend from Virginia, and my friend from Georgia, or any of my other colleagues who want to go address this issue on a standalone bill as soon as tomorrow, or next week, or in the Rules Committee next week. But that's the position we're taking. And the American people should be reminded as to why we're even having the conversation in the first place. I yield back, man.
Madam Chair, just one point. It's not a slush fund. It actually is a payment to them individually. So just,
Mi- The question is on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Ms. Leger Fernández requests a recorded vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Fishbach. No. Mrs. Fishbach, no. Mr. Norman. Mr. Roy. No. Mr. Roy, no. Mrs. Houchin. Mrs. Houchin, no. Mr. Langworthy. No. Mr. Langworthy, no. Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, no. Mr. Griffith. Mr. Griffith, no. Mr. Jack. Mr. Jack, no. Mr. McGovern. Aye. Mr. McGovern, aye. Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Scanlon, aye. Mr. Neguse. Mr. Neguse, aye. Ms. Leger Fernández. Ms. Leger Fernández, aye. Madam Chair.
No.
Madam Chair, no.
The clerk will report the total.
4 yeas, 8 nays.
The noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to.
So
No,
Madam
Ms. Leger Fernández.
Madam Chair, I had a couple of more, and I don't think they'll get as much debate, even though I wish they would. But I will just add this one. Madam Chair, I have an amendment to the rule. I move the committee make an order amendment number 29 to the said amendment HR 5371 offered by myself, which reaffirms USDA's authority to reimburse states for SNAP and NAP under Section 118 and require state reimbursements for other nutrition programs. And the reason I need to bring this amendment, even though we are at this late hour and we had such a great conversation about my earlier amendment, is because there were certain states that stepped up to make sure their families, their veterans, their children, their elderly did not go hungry when the USDA refused to disperse the money that was sitting there, basically sitting there in the bank, available to fund SNAP. In every other shutdown, that contingency fund that sits at USDA precisely for purposes like this has been used so that people don't go hungry. And in this instance, sadly, President Trump and USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins decided that they weren't going to send it out. So Democratic states like New Mexico and Vermont and others, but also Republican states like Virginia and Louisiana and others, did what the federal government was refusing to do. They kept their children, seniors, and people with disabilities fed. And I think it is only proper, and it was left out of this bill, that we show the same leadership that they did, and we reimburse them. This is what has been done in the past, too. I mean, that's the thing, is like, we have never used hunger. A president has never used hunger before as a cudgel. And this time, this president did, even though the money was there. And so I think that we need to make sure that all states, including those Republican states who stepped up to make sure their people did not go hungry, receive the reimbursements that is normally done. And this administration shouldn't have needed a court order to care about Americans' hunger. All it needed was a conscience. I urge my colleagues to vote in favor of my amendment that requires the administration to reimburse states who made sure no child, veteran, or senior went to sleep hungry. And with that, I ask a yes vote on my amendment.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, the question's on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment's not agreed to. Ms. Leger Fernández requests a recorded vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Fishbach? No. Mrs. Fishbach, no. Mr. Norman? Mr. Roy? No. Mr. Roy, no. Mrs. Houchin? Mrs. Houchin, no. Mr. Langworthy? No. Mr. Langworthy, no. Mr. Scott? No. Mr. Scott, no. Mr. Griffith? No. Mr. Griffith, no. Mr. Jack? No. Mr. Jack, no. Mr. McGovern? Mr. McGovern, aye. Ms. Scanlon? Aye. Ms. Scanlon, aye. Mr. Neguse? Mr. Neguse, aye. Ms. Leger Fernández? Aye. Ms. Leger Fernández, aye. Madam Chair?
No.
Madam Chair, no.
The clerk will report the total.
4 yeas, 8 nays.
The noes have it. The amendment's not agreed to. We just did that. We just did that. Okay. All right. Hearing no further discussion, the question is on the motion from the gentlewoman from Minnesota. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion's agreed to. Mr. McGovern requests a recorded vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Fishbach? Yes. Mrs. Fishbach, aye. Mr. Norman? Mr. Roy? Mr. Roy, aye. Mrs. Houchin? Mrs. Houchin, aye. Mr. Langworthy? Mr. Langworthy, aye. Mr. Scott? Mr. Scott, aye. Mr. Griffith? Mr. Griffith, aye. Mr. Jack?
Aye.
Mr. Jack, aye. Mr. McGovern? Mr. McGovern, no. Ms. Scanlon? Ms. Scanlon, no. Mr. Neguse? Mr. Neguse, no. Ms. Leger Fernández?
Ms. Leger Fernández.
Ms. Leger Fernández, no.